Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Divorce Coach Diaries. So, today I want to talk about how powerful it is to let people know you, to let them witness your life and who you are, and how brave that is, and how vulnerable it is, and how rewarding it is inside of you. So, a few days ago, I was working in my office when my kids got home from school. And I was in here for probably about an hour after they came home and before I came out. So I saw my middle daughter pacing back and forth, checking to see if I was still on a call. Am I going to come out of my office? And I opened the door and she came in and sat down on this couch that's right here beside my desk. And I could tell that she was upset. She looked a little bit emotional. And I said, "Hey, how are you? How was school?" And she said, "My English presentation was horrible." And I said, "Oh no, what happened?" And she said, "I started crying in the middle of it, and it was so embarrassing." And I said, "Oh, okay. Tell me more about that." So she had had a presentation, which at their school, they do a lot of presentations. So it was not an issue about that. She's used to giving presentations. She's used to speaking in front of her classes. I knew that there was something more than just a general fear of a public speaking opportunity. And she said, "Well, one of the parts of our presentation was about empathy. And we were supposed to share an experience from our own lives of when we felt empathy for someone else." And so she said, "I started talking about Wrigley and when he died." So Wrigley was our beloved family dog that died only a few months ago. And so she said, "I wanted to talk about how Wrigley died and then how it made me feel so empathetic when," and then she mentioned my brother and their dog dying about a month after ours did. And she said, I wanted to talk about that and how I could feel empathy for them in a different way than I would have been able to if I hadn't just experienced that with Wrigley. And she said, "But it was too fresh." And she started crying, just even telling me about it and talking about it again and recalling it. And she said, "I could hardly get through the very first part of this section of my presentation before I got so emotional I couldn't really even talk again." And my teacher stopped me and said, "It's okay. You're okay. Why don't you take a minute, go in the hallway, go to the bathroom. It's okay." And so she said, "I left and my friend followed me right out into the hallway and she was crying along with me. And I went into the bathroom and I composed myself and I went back into class, but I was so embarrassed even going back into class. That is not how I wanted that to go." And she also told me that several other people in her class afterwards were hugging her and felt so connected to her, and how one of her friends said that there were several other people in the class that were crying after she finished. A whole emotional time in that ninth grade English class. After she finished telling me about this, instead of feeling sorry for her, I said, "Honey, this is the most beautiful experience today. I am so proud of you. You talked about something that really mattered to you. And that is so brave to let people see you in that really vulnerable state, especially as a 14-year-old ninth grader in the middle of school. That is so brave." Here's the reality. Connection is fostered through vulnerability. We feel connected to people who we feel like are letting us see them, who seem real. Nobody has the perfect life. Everybody has challenges. Our flavors of challenges, our flavors of the hard things we're dealing with, of course, don't look the same as each other's. And it is so brave to let people in, to give people a chance to love you because they know you. The whole truth is so lovable. It is hard to talk about things that matter to us and that are vulnerable and that are raw and that are fresh. Letting people witness you in safe places will change your life. Now, I am not saying go and tell everyone everything all the time. But when you are in a safe space with a safe person, if there is something that you are struggling with or wrestling with, if the opportunity presents itself, don't just say, oh, I'm fine, everything's fine, or it'll work itself out. Instead, take a chance on someone who you want to feel more connected with. Take a chance in those safe places to let somebody in and let them be a witness to you and to what your real life is about. Because I believe that generally speaking, humans are so good. We want to love each other. We want to support each other. We just are not very good at it sometimes. It's uncomfortable, especially if it's something that you don't engage with very often. Maybe your family of origin was not very vulnerable with each other. Maybe you never talked about or feeling. Maybe your conversations growing up were very surface level. And there's lots of reasons for why that is. And it doesn't mean that anything has gone wrong with you, because you can change the dynamic. Just because you haven't practiced it very often does not mean that it's too late to start. And it doesn't mean that it won't feel really good for you. Some people are really, really good at being vulnerable and letting people witness them. I'm thinking of a friend that I have who is a magnet for people because, in part, she is so honest and she's so vulnerable, and it is so lovable. People are drawn to her because she tells you about herself. She tells you about what is hard in her life and what she cares about. Her confidence, I'm sure, has grown because she continues to share and continues to be vulnerable. She's not afraid or ashamed to tell people what's really happening in her life. And I really do believe that that is one real reason why everyone loves her and everyone wants to be her friend. Because she is modeling that it is a safe place when she's around to be real. You don't have to pretend with her. She doesn't pretend with you. And it's so connecting and so lovable. So I want to challenge you to try, even in small ways, to be brave and let someone witness you. If you're not fine, if someone asks you, someone that you trust and want to feel connected with, if they ask you, how are you? Don't just say fine if you're not fine. Tell more of the truth and just see what happens and see how that feels. Some of us, this is easier for than others naturally, and there's so many reasons for that. If this is not easy for you, it's okay. Start in small ways with topics that feel just a little bit more safe than maybe what's really close to your heart. And through practicing that and feeling more connected, you will get better at being more vulnerable and more knowable. It also makes sense if there are some relationships that are easier to do this in than others. Now, of course, the more important the relationship is, the harder it is to be vulnerable sometimes, especially if we're not used to that. And if that core relationship in our life is not used to that type of vulnerability or that level, we have more to lose if we're rejected by that person. So it feels safer to hold it in and to keep everything surface level and to continue on. But that's not real connection. Real connection is letting people know us. So try it out. And if something comes up for you, I would love to hear about it. Go on my website and book a mini session and let's talk about what came up for you when you decided to be more vulnerable and knowable. Or if something comes up for you when I say that and you think, oh, I cannot even start to do that, let's talk about why. Because it makes perfect sense wherever you are. You are right on track. And it doesn't mean that you can't make any changes or shifts. So go to my website. I'd love to hear from you. megthedivorcecoach.com/mini session. Let's talk about it. Come and find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all at Meg the Divorce Coach. I can't wait to hear from you. Have a wonderful week, friends. I'll see you next time.